Okay, so good morning, everyone. So we are on Daf Tet Zayin Amud Aleph. Tet Zayin Amud Aleph. We're again continuing on with the sugya of lav hanitak le'aseh, where we have a lav, we have a negative prohibition, whereby, and then we then have the Gemara uses different expressions for those, as I think we saw. We'll see again today. It says lo ta'aseh sheyesh ba kum aseh. Right, you have a negative prohibition, which then has a positive action. That is the same as saying a lav shenitak le'aseh, where that aseh comes to correct, to atone, so to speak, for the negative action, and that would therefore mean that there are not going to be Makkot. Okay, but we saw again machloket between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish that sometimes you may have Makkot for a lav, even when it is a lav shenitak le'aseh. Depending on the machloket between them was bitlo, lo bitlo, kimo velo kimo. Do we say this applies when one simply has not fulfilled the aseh, or when one is not able to fulfill the aseh? It takes away the possibility altogether. So yesterday we saw how this was related to the question of hatrat safek or not. We saw the braita of Rabbi Yehuda regarding notar, where Rabbi Yehuda told us that for notar, we don't have, if somebody transgressed the lav and left over notar, there would not be malkot because it is a lav shenitak le'aseh. But the implication was, therefore, that were it not to be a lav shenitak le'aseh, there would be malkot for notar. So we saw Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish had an argument on this point. Rabbi Yochanan said, well, from here you see that a hatrat safek, because notar is going to be a hatrat safek, because whenever the person gets the hatra, it's not the direct action. The fact that only now they aren't eating, the korban at this present moment, then may or may not lead to malkut, because they could still eat it later on. They have the entire day. So Rabbi Yochanan says hatrat safek, therefore we get malkut. Reish Lakish says, well, notar here, it's a person is being passive. It's a lav she'ein bo ma'aseh. And therefore, for a lav she'ein bo ma'aseh, you would get malkut. That was Reish Lakish. And then we said, okay, well, according to both of them, according to Reish Lakish, this is also a case of hatrat safek. We said, yes, that's correct. It's also a case of hatrat safek. But there is another braita which Rabbi Yehuda quotes regarding one who hit or cursed his father, or cursed two people, one of whom is his father. And that is also a case of where there is a case of hatrat safek. We said there would be, according to Rabbi Yehuda, there would be no malkut. So Reish Lakish paskins like that opinion. We then asked, what about Rabbi Yochanan? According to Rabbi Yochanan, in our case of notar, he has to agree it is also a lav she'ein bo ma'aseh. We said, yeah, but Rabbi Yochanan holds like the opinion that's brought again by Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rabbi Yossi Aglili, that whenever you have a lav she'ein bo ma'aseh, in fact, there is not malkut for it, with certain exceptions. Maybe let's just see that inside again. If you look on Tet Zayin Amud Aleph, about 5-6 lines up from before the wide lines, maybe before that it says Ki hada amar Rav Idi bar Avin amar Rav Amram amar Rabbi Yitzchak amar Rabbi Yochanan amar Rabbi Yehuda omer mishum Rabbi Yossi Aglili. He says Kol lo ta'aseh shebatorah lav sheyesh bo ma'aseh lo kin alav, lav she'ein bo ma'aseh ein lo kin alav. Right. So if you have a lav that has an action, you would get malkut for it. But if it is passive and there is no action, and included within that is if it is only in speech, right, then there would not be malkut. By the way, we mentioned this. This idea comes up with the speech. Here's regarding punishment, regarding malkut. Would speech be considered an action or not? We mentioned it in the first Perek as well by Edim Zomamim, but a very practical question nowadays, right? If you have a digital assistant, or you have Alexa, or any of these machines, whereby you speak to it and it could perform actions for you, would speaking on Shabbat, would that be considered a chilul Shabbat? So I'm not going to go into the whole section, the whole sugya now about regarding what happens if you speak to Alexa on Shabbat to perform malacha for you. I will just say, right, it's related to the sugya. This is not the only sugya. But there are those who want to say that if we see from here that dibur is not considered an action, so maybe you could say maybe could you say that just speaking on Shabbat is not an action, and therefore it's not considered melacha? So I think everybody would agree that if, again, these machines can do different sorts of things. If you have a smart home or something which is voice activated, and using the voice activation, you want to perform an actual melacha, right? You tell your kettle to boil, and therefore that is cooking. I think everybody would agree that that is forbidden, and that is going to be melacha on Shabbat, because ultimately you are performing the melacha. What if it's not that? What if it's just the fact that it's listening to you? You say to Alexa, tell me a joke, or tell me, that's my son's favorite one. It says, tell me a knock-knock joke. But tell me the news or whatever it is, and it just speaks to you. So there, you might say, all you're doing is speaking. Again, I think that the consensus would be that would also be forbidden, because again, once something becomes, we have a similar discussion regarding motion sensors, right? Once something becomes the normal way of activating it, the normal way of activating this machine is not of activating this electricity, is not pressing a button, but it's by walking in front of the sensor, or it's by talking to it. And then the vast majority of poskim would agree that that is therefore in that sense considered an action. But that is and again, these questions of course are just going to come harder and faster all the time. Fascinating debate, but that relates to the idea of dibur not being a maaseh. So what you see over here is that we see a lav she'ein bo maaseh you would not get malkut for, with three exceptions. Again, all of these exceptions are regarding dibur. A person is doing something, but what he's doing is speaking and not performing an action. So the examples are, it says you would not get, right, lav she'ein bo maaseh ein lo kin alav, you would not get malkut chutz, except for these three cases. What are they? Chutz min nishba, somebody who makes a false oath, right? Meimer, somebody who performs tmura. Tmura, again, as we explained yesterday, is where somebody has designated a korban, designated an animal to be a korban. You cannot then go take a different animal and designate it in its place. If you do, you actually have to bring both as a korban, because you cannot remove the kedusha from the first one. That is called tmura, but that designation of the animal takes place verbally. So for that also one would get malkot. And somebody who uses the Shem Hashem to curse somebody else. So these three cases are all going to be you'll get malkut for, even though there is no maaseh. And now what we see, something very interesting. The Gemara says, Kasha de Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Sorry, and then it's going to explain either for Reish Lakish or for Rabbi Yochanan, because for both of them, in both cases, we asked the kasha, right? Both Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan learned from the Braita by Rabbi Yehuda initially, and then we asked them both, but what about the other factor which you are not taking into account? And both of them answered from a separate Braita in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, the same Rabbi Yehuda, right? Reish Lakish said, I learned from here that there is a lav she'ein bo maaseh, you would get malkot. We say, what about hatrat safek? He says, we have another bright of Rabbi Yehuda that says, no hatrat safek. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan said, we learned from here about hatrat safek. What about the fact that it's a lav she'ein bo maaseh? Rabbi Yochanan quotes in the name of Rabbi Yehuda again that for a lav she'ein bo maaseh, you would not get malkot, right, with the three exceptions. So therefore, in both cases, we have Rabbi Yehuda contradicting himself. So says the Gemara, no, like this. Kasha de Rabbi Yehuda. Ila Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Treitanai aliba de Rabbi Yehuda. According to Reish Lakish, we have a problem because we have Rabbi Yehuda in the first Braita saying that, implying that Hatrat Safek is Hatra, and in the second one implying almost explicitly that Hatrat Safek is not Hatra. So he says these are two Treitanai aliba de Rabbi Yehuda. The only way to explain it is that these are two different Braitot, two different traditions as to what Rabbi Yehuda actually said. And Reish Lakish says he paskins like the second version. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Yochanan, we don't have to go that far, because according to Rabbi Yochanan in the first Braita, there's no contradiction about the fact that it's Hatrat Safek. Rather, it's from the fact that this second Memra dealing with the Lav She'ein Bo Maaseh. So the answer is Rabbi Yochanan Elo Kasha Hadidei Had Rabbi. Right, the first the Braita said in the name of Rabbi Yehuda himself. The second one over here is Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishum Rabbi Yossi Aglili. He's saying it in the name of his teacher, and therefore that is not his opinion. That he was just quoting that Maimon. What do we see from here as well? By the way, Derech Agav, we learn a little bit of Musar, and the Gemara teaches us that you can quote somebody else's opinion that you don't agree with, and you can still respect it. That is a message that it seems to be a little bit lost nowadays, but that's important. I remember when I was learning. Once when I was studying in terms of teachers training, in terms of how to teach Gemara, to high school students, and one of the things they pointed out to us was that nowadays, there are certain things, certain axioms that the Gemara has that are very far from our cultural world and very far from the way that we think nowadays. One of the things was, for example, when the Gemara often will try and tell you who is the source of a certain memra, who said it. Right, so here we have a long list. It says Damarav Idi Bar Avin, Amarav Amram, Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yehuda, Mishum Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Right, and to put it into terms, you teach that today in the classroom, and the first response most people is, who cares, right? Who cares who said it? Why do we have to go all the way back? Why many times the Gemara will spend pages and pages. We have a Mishnah, and we say Mani Matnitin, right? Who's the author of a Mishnah? Which Tana is it? What does it matter? So we know the Maimon, we've just had Purim. The Gemara Megillah tells us, right? By crediting those who've said it beforehand, there is something that's very, very important. And again, even here, that you see, we can quote things in the name of teachers, quote things in the name of others, even if, in this case, Rabbi Yehuda does not agree, but there is still a value and there's still respect in it. So now, the Gemara continues. It says, we're going back to the sugya of lav v'nitak le'aseh, and we say like this, Tanan hatam. So now the last of the narrow lines, Amud Tetzayin Amud Aleph. Tanan hatam, anotel em al habanim. Rabbi Yehuda omer lokeh ve'eno meshaleach, v'chachamim omrem meshaleach ve'eno lokeh. Here we are dealing with the mitzvah of shiluach haken. Mitzvah of shiluach haken, that there is you have a mother bird, together with its chicks, together with the eggs in the nest. And if one wants to take the eggs, one wants to take the chicks, one has to first send away the mother bird. A big discussion in the Rishonim, what exactly is behind this mitzvah, and the Gemara in Chulin discusses what is behind the mitzvah. Do we understand the reason for the mitzvah? Are we allowed to understand the reason for the mitzvah? Should one try and endeavor to fulfill the mitzvah of Shiluach Haken, even if one does not want the eggs? There's a big debate about that. But in any event, what we see, there is a law to say of lo tikach em al habanim, meaning don't take the mother bird right in front of the chicks. You have to send away the mother bird first. The question is the pasuk saying that if you were to transgress the law of first taking away the mother bird, should you then send the bird away, and would that be a fulfillment of the asay? Would it be a lav shenitak le'asay in that sense? Meaning, we know this is a little bit similar to what we saw in the previous daf, where we saw the case of ones. You remember that there was a case of an ones, and then we said that assuming that the girl wants and the parents want, that the perpetrator would have to, in that case, marry her, and he has a mitzvah to marry her, and he has a lot aseh of ever divorcing her. And then we discussed, we went through the whole Amud, was there then the aseh to remarry her afterwards, after divorce? Was that considered a lav shenitak le'aseh or a lav shekidmor le'aseh? The question was, when is that mitzvah? It says he can't divorce her. He has to go back and marry her. Is that talking about in the first place, before when they first get married, or is that referring to afterwards? So too over here, the question is, when the pasuk says, right, it says you send away the mother bird. Is that only talking about beforehand, in the first instance, send away the mother bird, and then you can take the eggs or the chicks or whatever it is? Or does it mean, no, don't take the mother bird, but if you did, then you should still send her away? That is still an aseh, and that would be a lav shenitak le'aseh. So again, the Gemara says like this, Tanan hatam, hanotel em al habanim, Rabbi Yehuda omer lokeh ve'no meshalech. So says Rabbi Yehuda, if in the first place, in the first instance, you took the mother bird, then you would get Makkot. You would get Makkot, and you don't need to. You don't have to send the bird away. That's not going to be a lav shenitak leaseh. V'chachamim omrim no mishalech ve'no lokeh. Chachamim say no. Even once you've done it, once you've taken the bird in the first instance, you still send the bird away, and you don't get Makkot. Right? So zeh haklal. Kol mitzvot lo taseh sheish ba kumaseh ein chayavin aleh. This is precisely what we've said before, that this is the klal telling us any lav shenitak leaseh, anytime you have a negative mitzvah, a lo taseh, and there is a kumaseh, which comes afterwards as a result, you're not going to be chayav malkut. So let's see Rashi here. Rashi says, lokeh ve'ino mishalech, kasavar shalach meikara mashma. Right? When the pasuk tells us send the bird away, that is talking about beforehand. That is talking about before you've taken shalach meikara mashma lo tikach ha'em ela shochena kodim lekicha. Don't take the mother bird, rather send her away before you take the eggs of the chicks. Ve'af agav dichtiv betar lo tikach. Now, even though it's written don't take, and then it says send her away, so that in the order of the pasuk. So even though you're saying that the send away, this asay comes first, but it's written afterwards. So lav lameimra the im lakachta shlach. It's not saying that if you took the mother bird, send her away. Right? That's according to Rabbi Yehuda. V'ne'evei lav shenitak leaseh, and therefore that it would be a lav shenitak leaseh. No, it's not saying that. Ela lav shekadmo aseh. Just going back to, we remember Rabbi Yochanan told us earlier, this is a lav shekadmo aseh, that in this case, the mitzvah aseh, the positive action precedes the lav. The positive action is send the mother bird away. The lav is don't take the eggs without sending away the mother bird. So the asay actually comes first and is not dependent on that. That is according to Rabbi Yehuda. Interesting. Well, you see from here as well that if we say lokeh ve'ino mishalech, so he says so he says that you do get malkut for that, and that backs up what Rabbi Yochanan said before, that I love shekad moasei would get malkut. But Chachamim said, so when the Gemara says Chachamim omrim mishalech ve'eino lokeh, say no, now you send away and you don't get malkut. Says Rashi, kasavri shalach achar lo tikach mashma, that yes, the pasuk comes to teach you send away the mother bird. Afterwards, it's a classic lav shenitak leaseh. Don't take the eggs without sending away the mother bird. But if you have taken the mother bird, which you weren't allowed to, still send her away now, and that would be the asay. Kasavri shalach achar lo tikach mashma kedichtiv v'havelei nitak leaseh im lakachta shlach, and therefore it is a lav shenitak leaseh. That is according to Chachamim. Okay, so back in the Gemara, now on the again on the wide lines. Nanatam notel em alabanim. Rabbi Yehuda omer lokeh ve'eino mishalech, v'chachamim omrim mishalech ve'eino lokeh. Zeh haklal kol mitzvat lo taseh sheish ba kumaseh ein chayvin aleh. Right, so any time you have a lav shenitak leaseh, you would not get malkot. Okay, that's according to Chachamim. Now, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, so Rabbi Yochanan who holds like Rabbi Yehuda, who says that there is going to be a case of what looks like a lav shenitak leaseh, but it's actually a lav shekadmo aseh, and there is going to be one is going to get malkot. So says Rabbi Yochanan, ein lanu ela zot. There are actually only going to be two cases like this. Says Rabbi Yochanan, there are only going to be two cases where you have a lav shenitak leaseh, where you actually will get malkut. One is this, shelo haken, and there's going to be one other. Let's see Rashi. Rashi says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, anu ein lanu v'chulei, kloma, mishaleach ve'eino lokeh. And because it says, right, you send the bird away, and you, right, even according to Chachamim, meaning you now send the bird away and you don't get Malkot. Mashma, what's the implication of that? Therefore, if you have not sent it away, then you would get Malkot. Okay, but hang on a minute. We said, this is where we started off, we have this Machloket, Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan, which we've been discussing for a long time, to say that where would you get Malkot for a Lav Shenitak Le'aseh? According to Rabbi Yochanan, it's Bitlo Velo Bitlo. According to Rabbi Yochanan, only if you have removed the possibility of fulfilling the Aseh, then you would get Malkot. Rabbi Yochanan is telling us, but even with that, this is only going to apply in these two cases. So how is it over here? So again, so Rashi from the top. If he did not send away, he would get Malkot. Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yochanan says that would apply if you have cancelled, removed the possibility of fulfilling the Aseh. Umashmale, Meshalech diktani Meshalech lichsheyirtzeh ve'ino lokeh. Right, so it sounds like it means to say you send away whenever you want. You send away the bird, and then you won't get Malkot. So the matayu lokeh. When in such a case could you get Malkot? Sheyahalgena. Only if he was to kill the bird, and then because then he can't send it away anymore, right? That's it. This is what he's saying. Even though the Mishnah says we have a principle that for mitzvot lav shenitak le'aseh there would not be malkot. Demashma kol mitzvot lo taseh sheish bakum aseh shavot lezo. So, because it says ze haklal, it makes it sound like all the mitzvot lav shenitak le'aseh are similar to this one. Similar to this one in that you don't get Malkot, but you could get Malkot if you cancelled the possibility of performing the Aseh. Right? We say no, they are not all like this, meaning the majority of them, whatever you do, you won't get Malkot. Right? So they are not the wide lines in Rashi. It's not true that for every lav shenitak le'aseh, the exemption from Malkot is only dependent on whether you have fulfilled or not fulfilled or nullified the possibility of performing the aseh. Rather, no, ela ben kiyem, ben lo kiyem patur. But whether you have fulfilled it or not fulfilled it, you would still be patur from Malkot, with the exception of elazov od acheret. With this and one other case, the meshkachat bu delaki alidei bitul aseh. That in these cases, yes, if you were to prevent the possibility of performing the aseh, then you would get malkot. Dilu bekulu lo mishkachat bitlu ela bahani trei. Okay, so it seems to say is only with these two exceptions do you have the possibility actually of remove of bitlu, law bitlu. Only with these two cases are you able to remove the possibility of fulfilling the aseh, and therefore you would get malkot in such a case. So one case is this of shiluach haken, and the Gemara continues. Right, the third of the wide lines. So it's this and one other case. So what's the question we want to know? What's the other case? Amar le Rabbi Elazar, heicha. So Rabbi Elazar said, what is it? Where's the other case? Amar le lechit ishkach. Said Rabbi Yochanan, go and find it. Not so simple. You got to work this out yourself. Try and think. Try and figure it out. So he says, nafak dak vashkach. And Rabbi Elazar went and he searched and he found it. The case is the Tanya. It's a case we've already seen in the Gemara. Ones shegilesh im Yisraelu machzir ve'ino lokeh v'im koinu lokeh ve'ino machzir. Right, that's the brayta we already saw. So the case of an ones that he divorced, right, and then he has to go back and remarry. So that would be the lav shenitak le'aseh. If he's Israel, he needs to go back and remarry her, and then he won't get Malkut. But if he's a Kohen, so he gets the Malkut, and he can't go back and remarry her. Okay, so says Rabbi Yochanan, these are the two cases: the case of Shiluach Haken and the case of the Ones. That in both instances, whereby one transgressed the lav, that one could, even though it's a lav shenitak le'aseh, one could still get malkot if they bitlu, if they remove the possibility of ever going and ever fulfilling the aseh. So now, what is that case? What is the case whereby one would have removed the possibility of fulfilling the aseh? That's what the Gemara wants to understand. It says, sorry, before that. It says, Bishlama gabe shiluach haken mishkachat. It says, according to the case of shiluach haken, I understand. Makes sense. Whereby you can remove that possibility. How so? Says Rashi, Anicha b'shiluach haken mishkachat la, the fourth of the wide lines of Rashi. He says, Bitlo sheshachta. You would have removed the possibility of ever sending away now the mother bird if you killed it. You shechted the bird. You now can't send it away anymore. It's not alive. But in this case, the case of Ones, where he's divorced her, he always is able to go back and remarry. Where is going to be the case where we say he cannot remarry her, where he's nullified the aseh? Right, so Bishlam Agabe Shiluach Haken Mishkachat La Ela Ones Bitlo Velo Bitlo Echi Mishkachat La. Where do you find such a possibility? Again, according to Reish Lakish, none of this would be a question because you just say whether you have fulfilled or not fulfilled the assay in the meantime. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's Bitlo Velo Bitlo. So says the Gemara, Ida Katla Kamle B'Drabamine. So if you're going to say again, we're talking extreme cases. But you said theoretical possibility regarding the Shiluach Haken, the bird. If you had killed the mother bird, then you could no longer send it away. So in this case, if he had killed the person, then he would not be able to. Remarry her. But even then, he wouldn't get lashes because says the Gemara, Katla Kamle b'derabamine. We have a principle that if a person is chayav in more than one punishment. Right, they get the larger punishment, and they are then exempt from the smaller punishment. That's what's called kamlei b'derabba mina. He's already fulfilled it with something bigger. So if he was Rahman al-Itzlan, if he was to go and kill this woman, so then he'd be chayav mitzvah for the fact that he killed her. He would not be chayav malkut. So that's not the case. So again, what is the case whereby he divorced and he's now not able to fulfill the assay of remarrying her? He has removed that possibility. So two answers now suggest the Gemara. Answer number one: Amarav Shemi mechozna, kegon shekibela kiddushin me'acher. He has received on her behalf kiddushin from somebody else. Right? If the woman now has married somebody else, so he cannot marry her. So he has nullified the possibility of his remarrying her by having her marry somebody else. By on his behalf, he has now accepted that kiddushin. Says the Gemara, now we have a problem. Because again, what we're looking for is that he did it. He performed something whereby he has nullified this possibility. So, Amar Rav, so how could it be that he has now received the kiddushin on her behalf? If he's a shaliach, which you can do, you can make somebody else a shaliach for kiddushin, for gerushin, etc. If he is now a shaliach for her, well, then he's not the one who's doing it. She's the one who's doing it. He's accepting it on her behalf. That's exactly why it works, because it's not him, it's her. Right? If he's made her a shaliach, she is the one who has nullified that possibility. Okay, so say that no, she has not made him a shaliach. Well, then we have a different problem. Oh, kamine, meaning if she hasn't made him a shaliach, the question is called kamine. Then how does he have the authority? How does he have the ability to accept kiddushin on her behalf? He can't. It doesn't work. It says kol kamine, which Rashi says is bitmiya. Right? The Gemara is asking here, right, how can it be? The fact that he decides, therefore she's going to be married, that doesn't make sense. And therefore, it's nothing. He accepted the kiddushin, but he hasn't done anything. So that can't be it. Ella, rather we have to say the case is something else. And we go on to number 2. Ella marav shemi min ha'ada, he says, kagon shehidira berabim. No, it's that he made an oath. Well, we mentioned this before. Rashi brought it up earlier. This is where he gets it from. It's that he made an oath that he would not remarry her. That he would not, right? He made her mudar hana'ah. He would not get any benefit from her. And he made this oath in such a way. He made it in public, and therefore it's a neder which cannot be repealed. It's a neder which cannot be undone, and therefore he has bitel the aseh. But there's no way that he can now go and marry her, right? So now the Gemara goes into a little bit of a detail regarding Hilchot Nedarim over here to see what is the case where the neder cannot be undone. So this makes sense according to the one opinion. This is Machlokes regarding Nedarim, whether a neder that was made Brabim in public does not have hafara or hatara. It says Rashi over here, in that chapter in Gittin, this is where we find this machloket. So so the one who says that if you did make the neder in public, that you could still go back, you could still undo it, right? And you can ask for hatara for that neder. What will you say? So the answer is the medirala al da'at rabim. It's not that the neder was just made in public, but it was made al da'at rabim, meaning according to the da'at, according to the opinion of the rabim as well. Meaning, have a look at Rashi here. He says al da'at rabim shematza ba'avon she'asuralo. For example, he found a reason why she should be forbidden to him, and he made that neder v'dira. Al dat rabim v'al dat beitin, right? And everybody, all the publics, not just that they saw it, but everybody agreed to it. Everybody understood and agreed to that condition, and therefore that is something which cannot be undone. So, right? Elamad ma'yish la'afar ma'ikal meimar t'medirala al dat rabim da'amar meimar hilchata neder she'uda brabim yesh lo afara al dat rabim ein lo afara. Okay, so that is regarding that machloket that we have in the Gemara in Gittin. So it says that even though there's a machloket regarding neder shehuda berabim, it was made in public, but if it was made al dat rabim, then that cannot be undone, and therefore this is the case of bitlo. So what we say until now is that according to Rabbi Yochanan, there are only 2 cases of a lav shenitak le'aseh, whereby we would say that there is that we have the possibility of getting Makkot, because you have the possibility of bitlo, of completely removing the possibility of fulfilling the aseh. And now the Gemara says, so the 2 cases are Shiluach HaKen and the case of the Ones, who got divorced and then getting remarried. So it says the Gemara, 2 leika. Is that it? Right, there are no more v'ha'ika, but we have more. And yeah, in brackets says the Gemara, you have a siman, gezel, mashkon, upeya. These are the 3 cases which the Gemara is going to ask. And these are all going to be lav anitak le'aseh. We're going to ask if this should not be relevant there as well. Right? You have gezel, theft. The Rachmana amar lo tigzol. Ve'shivat ha'gzela, it says don't steal, but give back the theft. Right? Mashkon. The case of a mashkon, whereby somebody has a loan and you take something as a lien on the loan as collateral, and the Gemara said, and you have to give it back. You have to give that back to them for the night. If you take the shirt off the person's back, they need it back that night. You can't keep that mashkon and leave it for them to be without it. So it says mashkon. Rachman amar lo tavo beito lavot avoto hashev tashiv lo. But the person shouldn't come home without sleep through the night without getting his collateral back. Hashev tashivlo, you have to give it back to him. Hashev tashivlo avot kevo hashemesh. Right, and in both of these cases, mashkacha la bekimo velo kimo, ubidlo velo bidlo. Both of these cases could be whereby one did not fulfill the assay, or one cancelled the possibility of fulfilling the assay. Right? Maybe you stole this thing and then you gave it away, you destroyed it, you used it, whatever it is. So answers the Gemara, no, and therefore why don't we get Makkot? It says no. Hatam kevan dechayev b'tashlumin ein lokel mishalem. We say no. Over there, since you are chayev in tashlumin, since the person has to pay back the monetary amount, therefore we say you would pay back and you would not get Malkot. So even though those are cases of lavshin in takle aseh, there would not be Malkot for them, but one would pay. Okay, the Gemara is going to go and continue and think, but we'll stop there for today. Just a couple of minutes early, something's just come up, so I'm going to have to stop there. But we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, and have a wonderful day in the meantime.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.